Amen. The text that I have lifted for us today made me think about a scene in the movie 42. 42 is the movie that tells the story of how Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball. You remember before April 15th, 1947, that no African American played Major League Baseball. That was until the Brooklyn Dodgers called up Jackie Robinson. Well, there is a scene in the movie when Jackie Robinson gets a hit on a racist pitcher, and he rounds first base, and he's trying to make it to second base. In fact, he slides into second base, and the second base player sees that he's sliding and that he's exposed. And because of the slide, the opposing player takes his spiked cleat and stabs it into the back of Jackie Robinson's leg. The injury, ladies and gentlemen, causes Robinson to be carried off of the field into the locker room to receive medical attention. Well, when I saw that scene in 42, I thought about the men that David sent to offer condolences and sympathies to King Hanan at the death of his father, Nahash. For according to the text, Nahash, who was the king of the children of Ammon, and David were good friends. And so David wanted to let the children of Ammon know that he was supporting them during this time. And so David sends men from Jerusalem to Rabbah to attend the funeral. Now, we don't know, ladies and gentlemen, how many men made the journey. We don't know their names. We don't know their ages. We don't know anything about their families or their backgrounds. All we know is two things. One is that they were sent by their king to console Hanan at the death of his father Nahash. And two, something awful happened to them that would change the course of their lives forever. For when they got to Rabbah, the word says that some of the advisors of King Hanan questioned the sincerity and the authenticity of David. For they believed that David sent the men to Rabbah to the funeral with the plot to overthrow Hanan's government. Yeah, they believe that. They believe that. Hanan's advisors got into Hanan's ears and insinuated that David was up to absolutely no good. And that was just not the case. David was just trying to be a blessing to the brother. And I want to make a point about that because I found that sometimes people look at the world and they think that all people are up to no good, that everybody is out to destroy them or take from them. And this is usually because someone has taken from them or attempted to destroy them. That's one observation I want to make. The other is this: people look at the world and they see in others what is in them. Some people will look at you at school, at work, even at church. They don't see you, they see themselves. They see how they would behave in a certain circumstance or situation. They don't see you, they see themselves. They see how they would behave. They see how they would react. They assume that what they do, you would do. I think that's what was going on with Hanan's advisors. I think that the men that Hanan had around him, when they saw the men that David sent, they saw themselves. And that's why they reacted in the way that they did. For they said, do you really think that David is honoring your father just because he has sent messengers with condolences? For has not David sent these men to you to search the city, to spy it out, and to overthrow it? And so the text confirms that Hanan accepted the advice of those who surrounded him over the relationship that his father had with David. For Hanan listened to the voices of these men instead of discerning the situation for himself. And eventually what we find is that this will lead to the downfall of Hanan and the children of Ammon. And as I thought about the teachable moment in this text, what you and I can learn from this unfortunate incident is that we have to be careful whom we allow to speak into our lives. We've got to take serious who we allow to influence us. We've got to take it more serious whom we allow to be in our circle. We've got to discern better. We've got to think about it better. We've got to check the people out who we have in our lives, because we're living in a season where life and time is moving at rapid pace. And because of the rapid pace, the rapid heightened speed of life and time and how it's moving, the time you used to have to recover is not there anymore. And so that's why you've got to be on point with whom you surround yourself with. Am I talking to anybody this morning? Hanan allowed the wrong folk in his life, and he paid for it. The text tells us that Hanan allowed some of the men in his regime to violate, to abuse, and to disrespect the men that David sent on this goodwill mission. But the word says that they did two things to David's men. That's what the text says. It's in the text. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to cover these two things and I'll be out of your way. Two things they did to the men who came to be a blessing. First, the text says that they cut off half their beards. Cut off half of their beard. Half of their beards. I got to say that again. I want you to get that. Half of their beards. Not all of their beards, but half of their beards. Now imagine how they must have looked and felt. Imagine how a person looks with half a beard. Imagine someone getting half a haircut. Feels funny, doesn't it? But check this out. These men were left to walk around with half the hair on their faces cut off. Now you may ask, what's so significant about their beards being cut off? Well, in that day and time, beards were a sign of their strength, their masculinity, and their power. It was a sign that these men could handle their business. And to no longer have a beard meant that you were no longer a man. It meant that you were no longer able to satisfy or to take care of your family, your business, or your future. Plus, you just look ridiculous with half a beard on your face. For their beards, brothers and sisters, it was a sign of their masculinity. It defined their manhood and their adulthood. And to have someone cut it half off sent all kinds of wrong messages. It sent messages to the value and the worth of these men in society. For this act was an attack on their place in society. For when Hanan and the children of Ammon cut those men's beards in half, it was saying that they were now half a man. It was saying that they did not count for anything. That they did not matter, that they were not important to society or to humanity. And Hanan, he did that, y'all, to curse them. He did it to embarrass them, to humiliate them, to shame them. He cut off a part of their beards. But not only did he cut off a part of their beards, but second, the text tells us that he cut off their clothes from the waist down. Yeah, he cut off their clothes. Lord have mercy. Cut off their clothes from the waist down. They just didn't take their clothes. It's one thing for me to take your clothes, but it's something else for me to cut your clothes, to destroy your clothes. These folk from Ammon were crazy. They cut off half their beards and then cut their clothes off from the waist down. For in cutting off their clothes from the waist in the back meant that their butts were exposed. Their private parts, Lord have mercy. All their business was out in the streets. Am I talking to anybody in the house today? It's a terrible thing to have all your business. I don't want y'all looking at my business. You probably don't even want to see my business. It'd be embarrassing for all of us to see each other's business. So you can imagine how these brothers felt up in this text, that their private parts, their personal business was exposed for all the world to see it, and somebody did it for the purpose of embarrassing them, shaming them, and taking their masculinity and their manhood. And you know, of course, like today, back then, there were laws against nudity. There were certain parts of the body that had to be clothed. I think we may need to bring some of these laws back today. Some of the stuff that I see on the streets, that mess needs to be covered up. Am I talking to anybody today? Cover yourself up. Pull your pants off of your hips. Cover your private stuff. Cover it up. It's against the law.